Hey guys, it's me Ian from CMF Metalworks. I'm here today with a tutorial on how to take apart some of the Blade Runner Systems knives that we have. Today I'm going to do the bare bones and the Alpha Beast. I did choose to exclude the replicant because one, I don't have one that I can currently use, and two, the process for taking apart the bare bones is very similar to taking apart the replicant, and you can apply all the things you can do to this one to the replicant. Some of the things that I wanted to tell you guys up front was the reason a lot of you are having the issues of screws stripping and snapping. I don't think it's the fault of Blade Runner Systems. I've taken apart hundreds of their knives. I've only had a handful of screws break, and they've all been my fault. I know exactly why they're breaking, at least in my situation. And for me, it was I was putting too much torque on them when I was retightening them. I've never had one break while taking it apart from a stock unit, except for when I've accidentally threaded them in wrong. Sometimes they'll catch sideways and you won't catch it, it'll be hard to tighten, and then when you try to go off, the head will shear off. But that's more of a problem that I've faced because I know it's my fault. I also think that a lot of the issue is the quality of the tools that people are using. Wiha makes the best tools for taking apart knives that I've found. I really prefer these three Torx drivers right here, but I do also have this kit right here. This one I've had for much longer and it does an excellent job. I just find the ease of use on these ones to be a bit better. I also have with me some Nano oil. This is 10 weight Nano oil that I purchased from Alpha Knife Supply, although I do believe you can buy it from the Nano oil website. It was $14. I do have some replacement screws. These are T8 black panhead screws from Alpha Knife Supply. I got them at 1/4 inch length. You can always shorten them down with sandpaper or as I do on my belt grinder. I have a large assortment of washers for everything I could need. I have 0.1 to 0.25. These ones, 0.025, I'm sorry. These ones are my 0.02. These are my thicker washers that I use on the bare bones that I modified to make sure that I'm getting the least amount of play I can. Not everyone can afford one of these. I know this one was actually given to me by a friend of mine, but this is my micrometer. I use this to help fit the washers. Just wanted to show you guys that. I always have my Leatherman on me. You never know when it's gonna come in handy, and it's almost one of the most important tools for taking apart the bare bones I've found. And then finally, I have the Loctite Blue 242 thread locker. People have asked me in the past if this is the red Loctite. No, it is the blue Loctite. It's just in a red container. And then I've also brought this with me. This is a toolkit that I purchased on Amazon just for these 4 bits right here, but it does have some of the other T size bits. I think it goes from T8 to T25, I want to say, as well as some of the other bits that you may need. It's good tools, not as good as Wiha, but certainly useful to have, especially if you're on more of a budget. This set right here was $75. This one was about $25, but it came with 7 pieces instead of just the 3 that I mainly use. So we're just going to jump right into this. First, I'm going to show you how to take apart the bare bones, as I think it's one of the ones that people are having the most issues with. I get messages on Instagram and Facebook and Reddit all the time on how to take apart the bare bones, where to find new hardware, and I will actually include all the links to the new hardware in the description down below. So the first thing we're going to do for the bare bones is we're going to take the T6 driver and we're going to squeeze these handles together. We're just going to remove all of the Zen pin screws. Now this is one of the ones that I've modified, but it should be about the same level of ease for all of them. Zen pin screws generally are not difficult to take out. I know they're T6 and I'm going to replace them with T6 just because it's what they came with stock and it's a pain in the butt to shorten that many screws for a whole run. Now the next hardest part, sometimes the pivots are a little bit too, they're very heavily thread locked and they are difficult to get out even with this massive T10 driver where you can really torque on it. So one of the things I do for that is in this set right here, came with a little little wrench, a little bit like that. And then I have a T10 Torx driver in there. So what you can do is just squeeze those handles together, put it in there, and then it should only take one. If it's really tough, you may have to do a few more, but you get the gist of that one. So what you're gonna do from here is just you wanna remove those T10 heads. Make sure you keep all your parts organized. This way you don't lose any. It's actually why I have the blue tape down, just because I'll end up losing something, I'm sure. And you're just gonna push out those pivot barrels with the driver. Sometimes they don't want to come out, but that's okay. Just let those washers fall. Push those over to the side as well as the barrel. Okay? And then you just want to, this knife is extremely sharp. You just want to kind of lift it up on there and then drop that off, pull it back out. If you can't get it to push out, don't worry. All you're going to do, okay, is you're just going to remove the top of the side that you can't get. And then this also applies to the replicant. What you're going to do is leave the pivot in, gonna lift the top off, push it to the side a little bit. You don't want to force it because you don't want to twist these. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your T6, or most replicants now are T8, and you're just going to unscrew them that way because it puts the pressure on those pivot barrels, allowing you to take out the screws. And then you should be able to just manually push out that pivot. So this is actually one of those blades that I modified. So we're just going to put that over here. The next step is going to be taking apart the handle. This is one of the parts that a lot of people, they'll contact me. I have parts of the knife spinning, and I do know what you're saying, and I actually have a method for not having that happen. First thing you're gonna do, you should be able to take out the two T6s on at least one side. I haven't ran into a bare bones, a stock one so far, that I haven't been able to take off the first side. So we're just gonna push these out. Sometimes they are a little thread locked, you have to give a little force. And then the Zen pin is sometimes a little tough to get out as well. We're just gonna take the pliers and really carefully just kind of wiggle it back and forth until it comes out just like that. So we're gonna lay our handles over here somewhere gently. The latch comes out just like that. I normally keep the pin in the latch, this way you don't lose it, because those do like to run away. And now we're left with this handle with these two barrels in them. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna hold it like that. I like to grab one of these with the pliers, whichever one I'm holding with the pliers, it doesn't matter what order you go. Just use your thumb to guide it on there. I'm just gonna twist it off, okay? From there, I'm resting it on the tool while holding it. You can just drop that pin, grab the next one. It's okay if that screw is still in there. It shouldn't fall out. It may fall out, you never know. And there we go. And there we go. The hard part is done on that handle. We've successfully taken apart one of them. We're just gonna do the same process on the other one. You wanna be careful not to scratch the handle with your tool. There we go. Comes off. I'm gonna leave that Zen pin in there. Oh, no, there we go. And then it's the same method again. These are all T6. You can absolutely replace them with T8. I don't know the exact length that you need. It looks to be a little bit longer than 1/8 of an inch. So there we go. The whole knife has been taken apart. It doesn't appear that I lost any screws. Ooh. That's all right. I have a whole bunch over there. So there we go. And now we're just gonna put it back together. I just wanted to show you guys how to take it apart. Now we're going to reassemble it. Let me grab that screw real quick. These will run away from you quite frequently. So make sure that you're not doing it over a carpet that hasn't blended in, and make sure you're not doing it on something silver, like a metal countertop, if that is something that you have. So what we're going to do is not lose the same screw that we just dropped. Again, we're gonna go over here, place those down. The hardest part you're going to find of putting it back together is actually getting each handle started. So we're going to put the Zen pin in there, just like that. We're going to take our T6 driver, put a T6 screw on the end. We're going to just get it in there a little bit. It's going to be tough. And just hold it with your pliers and screw it in carefully. You're not going to get it to go because it's going to just do this. And we're going to do that for both handles. Again, just with the pliers, you're going to tighten that down. You're going to get it to a point where it starts to spin. Stop tightening it there. That's how you start to strip screws, when you try and go too hard. Okay, and then from there we're going to take these, the little barrels. I haven't found replacements for these yet. But BRS was nice enough to give me a couple extras because I did drop a few in the shop and the shop just eats parts. So your warranty may cover that if they're kind enough to still honor it once you've taken apart the knife. So sometimes you can get it to tighten down, but normally it spins. I don't know if you can see that, but that is spinning. We're just going to take the pliers, hold it pretty tightly, and we're just going to tighten it until you can't move it without a lot of force. These don't have to be like Hulk tightened. That's where a lot of people are shearing the heads off. They're over tightening. And what's just happening is you're just twisting the head at that point. You're not actually tightening the screw. So you want to be careful for that. We're going to do the same thing again, just with this barrel. All right. There we go. It'll tend to thread in a little bit. Then you can just tighten it. Now, one of the Zen pins isn't going to have a screw in it because I dropped them on the floor for the second time, and we're just going to leave it that way, but I'll still show you how to tighten everything and it'll all be okay. So from here we're just going to do the same thing to the other side. Sorry that I'm a little shaky. I've had 3 cups of coffee and forgot to eat breakfast. What I'll be doing after I finish up with this video. By the way, if you have any questions on anything I'm doing, you're welcome to leave a question in the comments and I'll do my best to try and get over to YouTube to answer those. I'll also link to the tools that I'm using in the description down below. I know a lot of people have been looking for those. So then you just put that latch pin in there, just like that. Okay? Actually, I did that backwards. You don't want to put that in just yet. You want to get the pivot going. So you just put that pivot in there, just like that. And then we're going to take our washer, pop it right on there. I normally do one handle at a time, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to do both handles at the same time. Just going to do the same thing to the other side. Put one of those washers on there. You take your blade carefully. Remember, these are sharp. You don't want to cut yourself. I was actually practicing how to do this earlier this morning, and I put the tip of that in my finger. You don't want to do that. Always remember what you're working with. There we go, just like that. I will put the other washers on top. I'm going to put that latch back in there, latch pin. You can always go latchless, it's up to you. It's not going to change how you take apart or put it together. And then from there we're going to take this one. I still left the screws in there. I'm going to poke those out, just it'll be a little bit easier. Make sure that the holes line up. I normally go latch pin, Zen pin, pivot. You'll be able to feel that little click. And what you do is you should be able to put these in with no spinning because you already tightened them down from the other side. You move this, make sure it's in focus. There we go. One side is almost done. Here's the other side, just like that. Tighten it down. And again, I'm not over tightening these. All you have to do is just right there. It becomes tough to actually spin it. I'm gonna go a little bit further, just a little further, and that's it. Because that is how you get them to strip and shear off. Okay, so then from there, I go with the pivots. You're gonna go back to your T10. You can always replace these body screws with the T8 screws over there. Just make sure that you have them at the proper length. Just gonna tighten that down. Now I normally tighten that down until it gets to a little bit harder to actually turn, and then I'll stop. Just because I'm also gonna show you how to tune the knife. Okay, there we go. Pretend that I'm doing this to both sides because I am missing a screw. You're just going to put it in the Zen pin. You're going to squeeze the handles together. This way the Zen pins aren't moving, and you're just going to tighten it down again until it's just hard to actually turn it anymore without putting a lot of grip and torque on it. So then from there you can see that it's not particularly loose, but the play is pretty good. What we're going to do from here is we're going to make sure that these are tightened all the way down until they can't move anymore, until you don't have to put a lot of torque on them, I should say. Then you're going to back them off just a hair. I find with the bare bones that this will give you the best play to smoothness ratio. Okay, and then from there we're just going to back off each pivot until when you hold it like this, it swings freely like that. There we go. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot of play. It's about the same as stock. And then this is where we're actually going to put the Nano oil on. Some people do it while they're assembling it. I just like to put a little drop right above each part of the knife. Make sure to put your cap on. You don't want it leaking. This stuff is expensive. And I just back and forth like that real carefully. You don't want to slam it. Okay, and there we go. We've taken apart and reassembled the bare bone. Hey guys, sorry, the camera cut off, so I'm refilming the Alpha Beast part of this. So what you're gonna do for the Alpha Beast is very, very similar to the bare bones in many ways. What you're going to do to start is you're gonna take off this latch. And there was a post earlier that I saw about someone having a hard time taking the latch out. I do believe it mostly has to do with the tools that you're using. Highest quality tools are going to give you the best outcome. So we're just gonna remove that, make sure we don't lose anything, keep it all together. There we go. The latch is removed. From there we're gonna take our T10 and we're going to squeeze the handles together. Just gonna remove these. I know these are aftermarket screws, and I will put these also in the description down below. This way you guys can purchase them as well if you want them. Now almost everything I do to this knife you can apply to taking apart the replicant, as the only real difference is going to be those Zen pins, which just as the bare bones you're just going to squeeze the handles and remove those first. Okay, so then from here we're going to try pushing out these pivots. Sometimes they're harder than not. These ones don't really want to seem to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to just carefully lift up that top scale from the pivot. We don't want to bend it, so you don't want to force it too hard, but you want it to pop off. So then you can give it some horizontal pressure, and you're going to unscrew it. Now, if the thread locker is too strong for you to get off with your tools, what you can do is either do the boiling method that I mentioned with the bare bones, but only apply it to the spacer area, or you can take a candle and very lightly hold this area over the candle, probably about 1 inch to 2 inches above. Just let it heat up for a minute or two. Probably not even that long, maybe 30 seconds will do. Make sure not to touch it because it's gonna be hot. Hold it up here, and then you're just gonna unscrew it like normal. That should break any thread locker that you have in there. And then from here, I know I'm gonna have an issue with this side. I did make these spacers, and these ones aren't perfectly vertical, so it's gonna give me a hard time to remove them. So you're just gonna have to bear with me with that. I'll do that one second. So we're just gonna move on to the next one. It's the same kind of thing. We're just gonna lift up the one side and push it over. And then from there, you're just gonna unscrew it, just like that. Now these are the stock spacers, screws, and barrels that this Alpha Beast did come with the exception of the front barrel in this one, as I lost one of the other barrels. One of the best things you can do is have a stock of extra parts. So then from here, you're gonna be very careful. You don't wanna scratch the blade. You just push out with that T8 driver those barrels, just enough that you can lift off this top scale. Make sure that you have that washer. I knew that mine was stuck to the bottom of this. That'll happen a lot. So just lay it over there. And then from here, you can just take it out of the blade. Make sure you keep your bushing safe, as well as the pivot and the other washer. From here, you can just remove the spacer. Some of them are tighter than others just because, well, it's a tighter fit for some of them. Just gonna remove those barrels. If I can grab them, right over there. And there we go, we have one handle down. This one's gonna be tougher, just because I do know, oh, never mind, not tough at all. And there we go, it should just pop right off. And then if I can grab it, my finger's a little oily. Just remove that spacer, same thing, you can just pull that blade off of there. Make sure you put your washer over here. They should all be the same thickness. Just remove that bushing from that pivot. Some of these are harder to get out. So what you're gonna do, if you can't push the pivot out even with your finger, just put it flat against the table, pressure behind the pivot, and it should just go right down. And if you still can't get it out, you can just push it out the rest of the way, like that. Okay. So now from here, we're just gonna go and put it right back together. Well, if it is dirty, you can use Windex to clean it, but make sure you dry it really well. I found that that's the best way to clean a lot of Balisong parts. So then what we're going to do is we're gonna take the bottom pieces and you're just gonna do them flat like that. You can tell this one's the bottom because it doesn't have the counter bore. I don't know if this will focus. The counter bore where the latch pin goes in. Lay it down like that. I always do the layout just like that. You want to make sure that these are both pointed in the same general direction. That way it's even on both sides and you don't have one of those weird looking things where it's pretty obvious you put it back together incorrectly. From here, you just put your barrels right back in. Lay it down flat. Spacer goes on. Pivot barrel goes in. It shouldn't give you as much trouble going in as taking it out. You're gonna put your not your spacer, you're gonna put your washer on there. Take one of your bushings, slide it right over there. Put the blade on. It should just slide right on. If you have a hard time getting it on there, just try re-cleaning it. You probably have some dirt in the bushing and pivot area. From here, you're just gonna take your other washer, put it right back on top there. Let's see if I can get this to focus a little bit better. There we go. Right on top of there. And we're just gonna do it basically backwards of putting it together. I always start with the bite handle, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. Sometimes these are hard to get on. You just gotta push it down on there. You're gonna take your T8 driver, take one of your screws, and you're gonna start it. You're gonna do the same thing where you're gonna lift it up and give it some horizontal pressure so they're pushing away from each other. That's gonna put the pressure on the barrels, allowing them to not spin so you can tighten this down. I think I mentioned it previously, but one of the reasons a lot of people have their heads of their screws shear off is because they're putting too much torque when they're tightening. So what you want to do is just until it's tight enough that you have to actually give it torque on that driver. You don't want to go past that point because that's when you start to get into the area where it's going to shear off. So we're just going to repeat that for the second screw. There we go. You don't want to over tighten. And then this is the reason I do the bite handle first, because that pivot barrel, it can spin. So what you're going to do is close the knife, hold on to the spine and the blade, spine and the handle, and then from there, that's when you're going to put in the first pivot screw. Now these you can tighten down pretty hard because of those bushings, but I mean at some point you just won't be able to go past tightening, as that's pretty cranked down. There's no play right there. And we're going to start with the next one. Pivot barrel, spacer barrel. Also, if you look them on USA Knife Maker, these are actually just called .125 sex bolts. They're normally not in stock, but as of recording this video, February the 17th of 2017, they are in stock. I actually just placed an order for some. They are $2, I think around $2 a piece, unless you go higher in quantity. I still have to find where I can get replacement of the latch pins. So we're going to just put that washer on there. I'm going to put that bushing on top of there. Put that blade right on. Just like the other handle, we're going to push that down, and then horizontal pressure. Oh, I just made a mistake. You got to make sure you put on the other washer before you start to crank that down, or else it's going to be a pain. There we go. So we're just going to restart that, push it down. Going to get the screw, horizontal pressure, and then screw it right down. Like I said, don't over tighten it. I don't know if I said that you can always, if you have a hard time screwing it in and it doesn't seem like you want it to go, just back it out, spinning to the left, lefty loosey, righty tighty, until you hear a click, and then you should be able to screw it in. That's just the threading lining up properly. Like I said, just until you can't twist it anymore without using excessive force. Pull it over, push that down, and now you can squeeze these handles together and put in the other pivot screw. During this process, always remember that you are handling a sharpened blade. Make sure you don't grab it like that. Try not to slice yourself. Any horizontal movement on a sharp edge will probably end up cutting you, and you definitely don't want that happening. Don't want that happening. I always do the latch last, just in case if you mess something up as far as assembly, you don't have the headache of having to take the latch off every single time. So all you're going to do is you're going to line up that hole in the latch with the hole in the handle. You can let it rest just like that, still lined up. Just drop that screw in there, and it should go right through. You shouldn't be able to move that. And then just tighten it down like the spacer screws, except I definitely don't want to tighten it all the way, because it is the T6. If you go too hard, it will strip. So there we go. It's nice and loose. If you ever need to, you can always lube it up with your choice of lubricant. I like the Nano oil. I will put a link to this in the description. Just go like that to kind of get it going, and then let me see if I can get this to focus. That's the play right there. Very little play. And there you go, guys. That's how you take apart the bare bones and the Alpha Beast. And you can apply everything I showed you to taking apart the replicant as well. In the future, I will make a video on how to take apart the Select replicant with that pocket clip. It is a little bit more difficult than a normal one, but not hard enough that you shouldn't give it a try. And hopefully I'll have that video done within the next few weeks. This way you guys can get to taking those pocket clips off, or whatever maintenance you guys need to do. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.